Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Loan Officer's Playbook Podcast, the podcast where we talk about real insights and strategies in loan origination. Today, we're joined with Tammy Miller. Tammy is a producing branch manager at Neighborhood Loans. Tammy has helped over 2,500 families finance their homes since 2005, and she has an amazing background. Her parents were immigrants from South Korea. She studied business and finance at DePaul University, and her team focuses on financial education. Tammy has the entire package. She's been a VP at multiple mortgage banks, including working at Bank of America. And I'm really excited to have Tammy on the podcast today. Welcome, Tammy.
Thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate it. Look forward to our conversation today.
Amazing. Tammy, let's dive right into it. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry so far?
The trend of wanting to understand more, I think, is the biggest trend that I see of an educated buyer wanting to see the transparency in the process, understanding what the next steps are, and knowing what their options can be, not for us as the professional to choose the option, but us as the professional to present the options, and them being an active part in selecting what's best for their family goals.
Amazing. So, an educational experience, you try to provide that for your clients.
Correct. If you think about all the information available to us, it's wonderful. Everything you can find on the internet, nonetheless on social. There's a lot of active conversations, but I think it needs to be interpreted a little bit. There's a lot of different varieties of not just programs and products, but then you have the person itself, right? How their income flows in. What does it mean for their comfort level on payment? So they're hearing all these conversations, but how to help them compartmentalize what options are best for them. And that's really what I see as the trend right now is like, okay, this is available for everyone, but what does it mean for me? Right? How do I fit into that picture and what's best for, what are some best outcomes for my family?
And when those conversations happen, do they happen as sort of like a formal university education, or is it like a casual phone call, or is it like bite-sized nuggets that you send to them? How does it happen?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, depending upon the conversation about money you've had in your household could maybe fast forward a few things, or I may need to demystify what's going on in that, what they've learned back then. But a consultation really is what you're looking for when you meet with the loan advisor, and you're looking for a review on usually the buyer big three, or what are some monthly payment options? What are, the expectations for cash to close outside of down payment? So what are the expected closing costs? And then what are my pre-approval parameters, but really understanding what your comfort level is with good financial philosophy, translating that into the price of the home, depending upon the type of the home you're looking for, right? In the area is what's most important. So that consultation typically is 30 to 45 minutes, but in advance of that, there's some financial and document collection and information collection that's needed. But even in advance of that is a clarifying conversation of what's important to you. What are the needs of your home? Maybe what are some immediate questions? What are some concerns that you have? And so that's where kind of bite sizes in, right? And then the consultation gives clarity because it's personalized for that household. And then after that, there's a little bit more that comes, right? Like every time there's a follow up, I think there's great clarity that continues to come as you go through your home search, because now you have some visuals. Now it's applicable to you. And then in that exercise of looking for home, here's the price point. What does that translate into? Those become kind of the homework assignments that clarify the topic within itself.
Yeah, I picked up on a few words that you used a little bit differently. So I don't think you've mentioned the word loan officer once. You mentioned financial advisor. You mentioned consultation. So how do you like change your lingo to empower your team and say, hey, we're not here to only sell, 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 but we're here to empower people. And then by conversation, I feel like I'm going to the doctor and getting advice from the doctor. When I hear consultation, that's what I feel like.
Right. Yes, well, I think, we're really in the people business, and people need connection. And what we are selling are, at the end of the day, our product is a mortgage. But I think you have to rewind it all the way back. And we're looking to connect on what are your needs? And then how can I fill those needs? And, when you're consulted, it does bring it into a very different space. First and foremost, it means it's personalized. And that piece, I think, is paramount. I believe our industry has even recently moved in away from a sales only environment into a consultative environment, more an advisory type of position, because we're appreciating the education behind consumers wanting to know more, not just walking in and getting it immediately. They want to understand the numbers. They want to understand, how does it apply to them? What's good for them? You look at all the generations. We currently have 5 generations, right? Builder/silent. Then you have your boomers. Then you have Gen X. That's the generation I'm in. Then you have the millennials, right? That's yourself. And then you have the younger generation coming in, the youngest, right? So you think about the difference of how we've learned, the environment in which we learn, and how we continue to garner more information. Like my youngest is 18, and he was able to vote this year. And now his going to seek information is very different than how I would have sought and how I did seek more information about the candidates. He went to social, and they had some open conversation, dialogue amongst his friends. Well, you hear that it's a taboo topic to speak about, right? So myself, I go to have some more exploratory conversations. There could be some tension there. But yet for a younger generation, he went to social, and not just one platform, but all of them, seeking news, not just one outlet, but all of them. So it's interesting now, the consultation is pulling from a variety of information resources. And so I really find it important to help clients decipher and interpret what it all translates to for them. We're not buying a car here, and I'm not diminishing the financing behind a vehicle, but vehicles, typically are the largest investment someone has had until they go to buy a home. And it's also a much longer financial obligation than buying a vehicle, right? So should there not be more consultation, more advisory?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I want to take the conversation a little bit to the beginning. Like, how has your upbringing, when you got started in the business, how did you get started in the business, and how has your upbringing shaped the way you do business today?
That's a great question. So I immigrated here in 1976. My mom brought me when I was 2 years old, and we came from South Korea. So I was born there and raised by a single mom. So just us here. And my mother already owned a home in Korea, but Korean, financing outside of the United States is very different. So when we arrived in the US, my mother has amazing vision, just a businesswoman and so intelligent. And you wouldn't know that by her degrees, because she never formally finished anything past the 4th grade. But she is as sharp as the majority of most rooms collectively. And she, in her mind, we came here for opportunity, and she would look around and she was like, wow, I can buy anything here. I just need a little capital and to buy in the right place. So the reason why I share that story is she would look for, what do people really need living in this particular location? So we came to Chicago, and in Chicago, most people didn't, if you're living in the city, didn't have a need for a vehicle, because where are you going to park it? So she would look for public transportation. She would also look for recreation. So where are the parks? So how easy is it to get around? And then where do people have a good time? And when you look at that, the ease of that, she then started to identify real estate, and she, again, master at it, a complete master at it. And so that's kind of like my very early education with real estate. And she was Korean. So tell me, you have to know what people want to be. Where everyone looking? And that I learned very early on. Where are they working? Where do they want to live? Where is it fun to live? And how easy can they get around? So that kind of brought me into real estate at a young age. And she bought her first home here in the United States only 3 years after we arrived. But financing was very different back then. So financing back then, she didn't have the credit profile built out. And the seller of her building did what we call seller financing. So they financed the sale to her. And then they kept records of that. And then 2 years later, he took her to a traditional bank. He helped her, generate other type of credit. And then they went into a traditional bank, and that's when she got her first mortgage. So, being an active part of that, when it's just you and it was just my mom and I helped with the finances. So we talked a lot about money. And money was, kind of like up there with oxygen. The more you have, the easier it is to breathe. And that's how I was raised, is money is a tool. And so the better and the sharper your tool, the more things you could build with it. So then fast forward, initially I wanted to become a neurosurgeon. So I was going down a very different path. I grew up in the city of Chicago, as I mentioned, and went to grammar school and high school. But a little bit of a curveball, I will say it's God's blessing. He saw maybe I wasn't going down the path I was supposed to, and I was blessed. My first blessing was that I got pregnant at a very young age, and I had a daughter when I was 17. And so I had to come to it. I had to figure it out. So my thought of becoming a doctor very early on was impractical with raising a family. And with that, I just naturally had an affinity towards numbers. I enjoyed numbers. So I went and got an accounting degree, although being behind a spreadsheet wasn't really how I thought of numbers. But I was then enlightened by actually a financial advisor friend of mine. He said, you're good with numbers and you're great with people. Have you ever considered mortgage? Because I was consulting with him on, I need a new career. And I remember staring at him going, a mortgage? He goes, well, you know what a mortgage is, right? And I'm like, yes, I know what a mortgage is. He goes, well, that's actually can be a career. And that's 20 something years ago. And here I am. And I love the marry of the two. I really do. It wasn't I don't know if anyone really gets into mortgage thinking they're going to get into mortgage, but with the real estate side, that my mom just had a natural ability to see real estate opportunity. She went on to buy commercial property. I worked with her in a small kind of mom pop's business, a variety of them, but then she bought more residential property. And that's actually kind of how she built her retirement plan. Is her first building was a mixed-use multi-unit. So it was a restaurant and a business basement and first floor. And then we lived on the third floor. So that's a mixed-use multi-unit. Then she bought commercial, and there was 5 commercial, retail, half a city block. And we had a business in there, but then the other tenants paid her. And then she bought her last when she retired, and that was a condominium downtown. So my mom has built her retirement based on real estate itself, and she paid it off. She understood that interest was lost, cash flow for other opportunity. She really focused and did a great job. So, it's amazing when you think of life is not a ladder. It's a jungle gym. And sometimes you jump over here and then you realize no. And then you go down the slide and you figure out another way to get back up. And then you kind of make the summit of that mountain. And then you're like, oh, there's higher mountains over there, but you got to climb back down to go back up,
It's It's-
Um, but I will say that that entire, I've been blessed 50 years thus far on this earth, and I've just had great examples around me, and I paid attention. I make plenty of mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. I continue to make them. I've just paid probably more attention to what caused the mistake, and I just see mistakes as an opportunity to learn, right? So there's growth in that, and so take that and add it, right? It's kind of like a tech stack. You think of companies have their tech stack. I just think of like, it's just a failure stack, but you fail
yeah.
forward. You figure it out. Uh,
Is your mom with us today? Is your mom still-
She
Yeah.
is, yes. She lives downtown Michigan. She'll be 83 years young this year. She is vibrant as can
Wow.
be.
Yeah.
Now has made it to all 7 continents. She has gone to all of them, 60 plus countries within that. And, she's truly an inspiration and a wonderful example of the American dream realized. We all come, as an immigrant, we come here for the opportunity. We come to build the legacy for our generations to follow. And Michael, I've been so blessed on that to have just such a close example that I've worked day in and day out with. Most of the advice she gave, I'm sure I, as such a smart young person, I kind of shook my head and my hand at her, and now I know to be very true. Right. And now I just nod. Yes, Mom.
It must be so fulfilling seeing all what you've achieved for her. Um, yeah.
Yes. And I've gotten better at asking, what else is there? What else should I be looking at? That's the advantage, right? Of those that have lived before, for many years before us is like, what am I missing? Yes. I guess, when the student is ready, the teacher appears in different
I'll
ways.
ask you something related to that at the end. Your team emphasizes a growth mindset. What strategies have helped you stay competitive in today's market?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's a lot. There's first and foremost is that growth mindset, just having an open mind, and that's in coaching, that's in community, and that's in baseline classroom work. Right, got to do the work. Always be learning. So that growth mindset comes from who is in your community, who are you following, and a big vision. If you think of like just CEOs, right? What do? They're head of sales, head of recruiting, but they're also visionaries. And I would say it leads with the vision, and then that becomes in who you recruit, and then that backs into what are you selling. And I will say sales saved my life. It truly did. I my life just wasn't what I thought it initially was. And, I think unfortunately sales sometimes can get a bad rap, but truly it's learning people, as we had just talked earlier. It's that personal connection and finding the right people. And that's that growth mindset, So here at Neighborhood Loans is where I originate loans, and I'm a producing branch manager here, which means that I help clients, and then I, build teams to also help clients, and I show them a system. And that's really, once you have that with like, we could do this better. What can we do better? Client, we've helped you into a new home. What did you enjoy? What maybe could have been clearer for you? Just asking for the feedback. I think people appreciate that. And then solving to that, whatever X is, solve to X.
Speaking of sales, with AI rapidly entering the lending space, the sales side is one of the sides that people are seeing, some of the most important disruptions and innovation. Just want to ask you, what do you see as, the most promising role of AI in helping the loan officers?
I believe AI truly allows the professional to be the professional and not be distracted by the mundane tasks that need to be it's just a reality. Entering information, you think of just online applications. Entering the information is only needs to be done once. Why does someone need to give you the information, then someone else need to enter the information here, then transfer the information, re-enter it over there? That may not be the highest and best use of time. So that's where technology truly enhances the experience. It's just data collection. And then have the professional be there for the consultation, for the extra, um, what's important to you, and then to go out to the marketplace to fill that need. It's to understand, connect with people, understand the need, and then go fill the need. And the technology is there to have the tasks be completed or transference from one system to the next as the loan matures, right? And you go from pre-approval to approval to closed, and now you're in the home and you're paying off the mortgage. There's systems to enhance. How can we save you money on the interest, right? So you think of all of that. I love technology, absolutely love technology. And people say, I think there's, again, the generational gap can sometimes not understand the benefit of technology. And that is because, and that may be a little fear based, but if I could buy back, that's what technology does. It allows me to buy back my time. And then now I'm best served to go serve other clients, to have more conversations, to meet more people, to, craft the message, to post it on social so they can understand how this client's scenario is probably more similar to theirs than they thought existed. And that if they can do it, so can you. Right. So that's where technology, I think, is just a time saver. I do think some people fear it. I don't think you can over tech a process either. You still need to have human connection. So that's where the balance comes. Everyone wants it to be faster, but then they want the connection too, right? You do need the balance of that. So that's where I feel like I'm always okay, not too much technology, enough conversation, but leveraging text systems, right? For reminders. I mean, you don't need a person to do that. Let the technology enhance that. But don't you appreciate it when you get the text reminder?
Yeah,
Right?
technology as a tool. Yeah. Yeah.
As a tool, absolutely, right? So it's like, gosh, if our dentist can remind us of our dental appointment coming up, don't you think we can leverage some technology in the mortgage process to remind us of when our appointment is and all the next
Yeah.
steps? So,
Tammy, I know we're
mhm.
coming up on time here, and I want to be really, really respectful of your time, but I just want to take a page from your mom's playbook and ask you a question about where do you see people moving to? Where do people want to live? Geographically, yes.
I think people definitely, COVID was interesting, right? They definitely are seeking activity. They're seeking openness. They're seeking experiences. And there's, travel you can see is open back up massively, and probably COVID really compounded that. But I think really it's the experiences with your closest inner circle. It starts with your family or immediate family, then extended family, then your friend group, and then your community. So I see people moving closer to their family units than ever before. Growing up Korean, very close to the family. I think some of what I witnessed in the United States it was starting to become very siloed and independent, but I actually see people moving closer to their family and appreciating that connection. I see more multi-generational living, like in multi-units in urban environments. I see, land being purchased and enhanced and renovated, so more than just one family can live there. Um, maybe we all appreciate space, but maybe maintaining smaller spaces so you could take the additional funds and go experience travel more outside of just the home.
Amazing. Thank you for that perspective. Final question for our audience that want to reach out to you. What's the best way to reach out?
Well, certainly follow me on social, Facebook and LinkedIn on my name, Tammy Hajjar Miller, just like it is on the screen. And then Instagram and YouTube, I am at Working Wife with a Life. So I'm a daughter, a wife, a mom, all of it, husband, 5 kids, blended family, immigrant. Feel free, reach out. I can relate to a lot.
Thank you.
And I look forward to connecting with people for
Thank
sure.
you so much, Tammy. Thank you for that perspective. Pretty sure we have some folks here who have gained a lot of insight from this conversation. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but unfortunately we only have 30 minutes. So we have to cut it short
Yes.
this time, but maybe down the road, a year or two down the road, we'd love to have you come back and just have a follow-on conversation. So thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
This has been another episode of the Loan Officer Playbook Podcast. Thanks so much to Tammy for coming along and sharing great insights from her background and how her mom inspired her to how she got started in the business and tips to succeeding in the business, because Tammy is the poster child for success in the mortgage industry. But thank you so much. This has been another episode of the Loan Officer Playbook Podcast. I will see you in the next one.